Social media platforms are facing a reckoning.
Two of the biggest, Facebook and Twitter, are desperately trying to fix their image problem.
This week, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey said that users shouldn't be obsessing about their follower count and instead focus on having meaningful conversations.
Twitter has a branding problem, not a follower problem.
I'm Sarah Bosveld, senior writer at Chatelaine.
I'm B. Kwame, freelance writer and digital strategist.
I'm Donovan Bennett, host and writer for Sportsnet. Here's the issue. I don't know how meaningful a conversation can be in 140 to 280 characters.
And look, maybe Jack isn't entirely wrong. Bigger isn't always better when it comes to social media followings, and I know a little bit about that.
But all of this is missing the point. People fixated on their follower counts is not the problem.
The problem is Twitter has become the place people go to vent and to shame.
Hello there, I will be your poor man's Ian Hennemensing tonight with the pop panel.
That's still pretty rich, just so you know.
We're here to discuss a lot of meaningful topics. Of course, you just saw some of the introduction, and Donovan, maybe I'll start with you because, you know, Jack Dorsey suggesting that Twitter, the number of followers you have, doesn't or shouldn't matter. Is he wrong?
I mean, I don't know if he's wrong. I'm probably wrong because I'm guilty as charged. Like, when
You're watching those numbers.
For sure, at Donovan Bennett, get out my mentions. Don't slide in the DMs though. Don't do that. But no, I mean, when I get some not so nice things on Twitter, I'm sure it happens to you as a minority on TV,
Every once in a while.
as a woman and a minority. I'm sure you have it doubly as bad. But I often will look and say, well, how many followers do you have? And that psychology is bad, as if I should validate someone's opinion, good or bad, based on how many followers they have.
Or if you can get away with not responding.
Exactly,
right?
Because the other platforms, I don't think Instagram has it the same way. So I think there's more of just an issue than Twitter and the amount of followers, or the fact that you can see the amount of followers.
Right, but I mean, Jack Dorsey's not the only one to jump on this idea, right? So Kanye West, quite famously, says, we should be able to participate in social media without having to show how many followers or likes we have.
Oh, please.
Okay. But let me present Exhibit B, Kim Kardashian saying this. Amen to this. Okay.
Nice symmetry there.
Well, I just have to add that. So,
Her business is her followers, right? Like, does she have another discernible skill? She's a businesswoman, certainly, but she sells her followers. So that, to me, is sanctimonious from them.
And I definitely, you know, it's interesting. I see this two ways. I agree with what Kanye said in a way, and it's surprising to me because it's the first time I've agreed with Kanye on almost like anything in a long time. But I agree that it would give a different feel to not just Twitter, but social media in general if we didn't have access because of that validity that we give to certain people or take away from people. Across Twitter, across Instagram, just across social media in general, there's now kind of this burgeoning definition of the micro-influencer. So those are people who have maybe 1,000 to 10,000 followers. They're not your, you know, up in the 100,000s of followers, but from a brand and marketing standpoint, those people are the ones that get better engagement, and those people are seen as more trustworthy and valid to their audience. So you might approach a Kim Kardashian about posting something or about tweeting about something, and people will just pay attention because it's Kim Kardashian. They might reach out to me because they know that if I share something, my followers might be more engaged than Kim Kardashian's because they trust me more. But with Kim agreeing to Kanye's point, it's interesting she did that on Twitter, but then I'm thinking, would you go on Instagram now where you make the bulk of your money and say that you think follower counts are ridiculous on Instagram? Because it's different, but there still are implications on how follower count impacts people in other platforms too, so it's funny.
Except now with this concept of micro-influencers, I don't feel so bad about the fact that I have so few followers on Twitter. So Sarah, what's your take on this? Because another question I suppose I wonder is whether all of this fixation on follower accounts and the metrics and gamifying of Twitter, whether that is getting at, you know, what Twitter's biggest problem is.
Yeah, well, I think Twitter has often dodged what its biggest problem is, which is harassment, and the way that it allows certain people to keep being extremely damaging actors online and pretending to have some kind of code of conduct and then really completely ignoring it for depending on who you are. Like, say you're the president of the United States of America and you're consistently breaking the codes of conduct, that's fine. Or, you know, but if you're a woman online, as Donovan said, it can be extremely horrible for you. And so I think a lot of people leave the platform because of toxicity. And so I think Twitter, by saying, you know, oh, you know, we're concerned about your own sort of social fragility, you know, so
right.
your self-esteem, as Kanye is talking about. But at the end of the day, we've built this entire structure around following. You know, the tribalism is baked in, and the polarization is what they make their money on, or their audience
right.
on. So,
but I mean, just
it's superficial to me to talk about, you know, being concerned about follower count.
Just on that point, though, I mean, how do you fix the problem given what Twitter is?
You mentioned Donald Trump. He's got a blue check mark. So in a way, they're co-signing the fact that he harasses, he gives misinformation on the platform, but for being honest, he drives massive traffic to that platform.
Yeah.
Whenever he uses it, it becomes news. So if they wanted to send a message, erasing followers is...
I do want to move on because, I mean, we're talking about this sort of one existential crisis for the social media platform, because there's another one that I think is worth talking about, although it is very different. Take a look.
Flows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air. It's clouds, illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds.
I don't belong here! I'm not a toy!
Okay, so this is the point where all of our viewers turn to themselves and say, what are they playing? What are they talking about?
What channel am I on?
Okay, so this was a teaser, obviously, for Toy Story 4 that just came out this week. The movie itself comes out next summer. But let me try to explain what you saw there. So that was Forky. He is a spork kind of turned arts craft who clearly is a toy, but doesn't want to be a toy, doesn't think he's a toy, but the other toys think he's a toy and want him to be a toy and want to take him on their toy adventures. So, I mean, we're talking about a kid's movie, for crying out loud, but kind of, boy, like what a premise for our time.
I think we're in a time where we're constantly trying to define or redefine everything, right? We're talking about labels all of the time and pronouns all the time. What is an asylum seeker? What is an illegal alien? What is a male or female? Or are those things important, right? So we're always constantly trying to define things. And so I looked at the trailer, I'm like, oh, are they trying to tell me something? Is Pixar trying to have a bigger statement for the parents? Because those movies are great because the parents often get something from it, and the kids obliviously are just watching cartoons.
And so it sounds like you're happy that they're taking this on. And Sarah, I mean, you're a new mom.
Yeah.
You just had a baby. Do you see this as being, I guess, a springboard for conversations that you might have?
I think so. You know, I think it can just be enjoyed by the child, but children are sponges, as we know, and they take in so much around them. And to have it, you know, fun animated characters grapple with some very deep, complex things might seem counterintuitive, but if Toy Story 4 succeeds in making a really fun storyline in this and making it relatable to kids and prompting some conversation about, you know, how do you think the spork feels in this milieu of Mr. Potato Head and the robot. And
I'm sure.
I don't see any harm in that. I think that's okay.
Yeah,
because the kid's maybe not experiencing it as some deep thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's all right.
All that said, I'm sure there are people who are watching right now who are thinking, they are taking this pretty darn seriously.
Yeah.
This is what we saw in that trailer.
Yeah.
B, I mean, your take. What jumped out at you?
So then the other thing that really jumped out to me, and you know, holidays are coming. I'm thinking of gift lists and all that stuff. Is just the fact that what I have learned with a 4-year-old is that you can buy them the most expensive, amazing baby Einstein toy.
I know where you're going with it, yes.
And they will want to
Yes.
play with the fork. They will want to play with the box it came in.
Yes,
So it's
sweet.
just a good reminder for me, like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to spend a ton of money. Let's just get some forks and some, like bendy straws and let her just do her thing.
But I bet you they'll be retailing the Sporky
for sure.
for like $30.
They won't want it anymore, right?
They'll be like, oh, give me, and so just try to give like a replica one with an actual
Exactly.
Spork.
Okay, I do want to stay on this theme of things that are, maybe ostensibly for kids, but really they're for all ages. The world of pop culture lost one of its giants. Stan Lee of Marvel Comics fame passed away. He was 95, and he left behind a whole host of legends in their own right. Characters that he helped create, Spider-Man, the Avengers, the X-Men. So we thought a fitting way to close this week would be to share the Stan Lee co-creation that we most identified with. And this will be an interesting conversation, I suspect. Sarah, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, well, I'm going to come up as very naive about the comic world here and not very deep, given the deep depths of this. So to me, I was like, the Incredible Hulk speaks to me. Certainly when I'm hangry, when I need a sandwich, I'm like,
okay.
you know, I get, but like we'll get into beast mode sometimes. I can get into beast mode. You mentioned me just having a child. Obviously, I had to get into beast mode there a little bit, you know.
Yeah, for me, I think my main pick is Storm. I was just taken aback that there was like a black girl with all the other cool people who's got superpowers and she can control the weather. And I started thinking that I could go outside and control the rain, and it was a whole thing for a while.
Donovan, what have you got?
Black Panther.
Oh,
surprising.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, sure.
I don't know, that blazer. Definitely like a pig.
I was going to say something. If I had to pick one, so I thought about this long and hard, and I thought actually Daredevil. There's an element of risk in doing national television.
Absolutely, Daredevil. Hey, so you're wearing a cape next time we see you on TV.
I've got it just under the chair. I can show it to you next time. All right, thanks so much, guys. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Good to be here, thanks.